All right, give it the beans, folks. Here on Beans and Dice, when we talk to you about games, we talk to you in the format of the beans. The acronyms BEANS. B is basics, E is enjoyment, A is aesthetics, N are the negatives, and finally the summary, where we tell you whether to buy, try, or deny the game. My man Nick Oben from Wesley Chapel, Florida, on the line, talking to you about Apiary. Give it the beans.
Yes, sir. All right, very good. B for basics, and you're going to have to remind me all the letters. B for basics, though, it is a worker placement game featuring bees in space, where each player is running an asymmetric hive. So the bees still function like bees. You're building a hive. You're looking for pollen and water and fiber. You're trying to make honey. It's a resource management game. So as you take actions throughout space, you are doing that to explore areas. You're having your queen go off and explore to try to find new planets that have one of the core resources, pollen, honey, pollen, water, or fiber, so that you can then use other actions to make wax and make honey, and then you're cashing in those resources to make better beehive rooms, chambers in the beehive, and hire better bees, and teach dances, which is a thing. So bees communicate by way of dancing, of wiggling, and pheromones and whatnot. So you can learn dances and use the dances to make better conversions. And then you're playing neat cards. So you have an action to collect a hand of cards. So you have a card mechanism as well as free actions, which is always fun. And it's great. It goes around and around until enough bees have gone into hibernation, which is a neat timing aspect of the game. The game is played in turns, not rounds, unlike most worker placements. And I'll get to that down in one of the other categories here. But most worker placement games, let's say we all have 5 workers. We all take turns placing our 5 workers, and that's the end of the round. And then we all collect our workers, right? And then we do another round. That's like how worker placement games go in general. This one bucks that and says, no, there's no rounds. You just keep placing workers, and workers are bumped off of spaces by someone else going there. And the number of spaces is only 6. And so you are going to get bumped. You've got, each person has 4 workers, and so around and around you go, and you're getting constantly bumped off. As bees are bumped off, they age and get stronger, and then eventually they get so old they go into hibernation, and that is the timing of the game. After enough bees have hibernated, the game is over. And so it's a neat thing where the length of the game is somewhat deterministic, but not super clear. You can definitely see the end coming. As more and more bees are going into hibernation, you can see, only 3 bees left, and then it'll be the end of the game. But then again, if those bees don't get bumped as fast as you think they will, then the game won't end. So there you go. Basics worker placement game with a neat worker placement system played in continuous turns, where you're constantly cycling your workers, and as the workers cycle, they get stronger and older until they hibernate, in which case that's the end game mechanism. So there's your basics. What's next?
E, enjoyment.
Enter enjoyment. As you can tell from my tone, we enjoyed it. It was great. We love the theme of bees. Your bees played like bees, which is cool. You're out there trying to collect resources, build a better hive. Not getting to aesthetics yet. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely fun. I mentioned this, I'll talk about this. There were no bad turns. That's always a big thing to look for, right? There's no turn where it's like, man, I can't do the thing I wanted to do, which is a calling card of worker placement games, actually, right? Like if Mike blocks the spot I wanted to go to in a game of viticulture, I can't believe you went there. I needed that spot, right? And now I have a bad turn. Oh, bad.
Sometimes a bad few turns, right? Because that can lead to not filling in order, not aging that grape, not et cetera, et cetera. Very painful.
Here, because of this neat system of bumping, Mike goes into the conversion spot. Great. I'm going to go there too. I'm going to bump his worker out, which does make it more powerful for his next turn, right? That's the payoff, but I get to do my turn, right? My turn is unaffected effectively. And so no bad turns. You can always do the thing you wanted to do. The variability of what power workers you have and where people are going and what system they're building is the neat race here, because it is a race. You're trying to build the best hive as fast as you can, and you kind of want your bees to be the ones leveling up and hibernating, because when you do hibernate your bee, you get a one-time bonus. And so it's like it's a race to, as my bee hibernates, I get to cover up a one-time bonus that now only I get, and when those bonuses are all gone, that's the end of the game. So the more your bees are the ones doing the hibernating, the better you're doing in the game. But of course, you got to spread out and do all the actions if you need to. So a lot of fun there. No bad turns. Most of the turns are small and fun and fulfilling. Like, yep, you get to do the thing you plan to do. And then there are definitely a few witness me moments as well, where you can cascade. You can actually bump yourself off, causing, like, maybe you take a really cool action and you cause one of your other bees to hibernate. So you take another action, which lets you instantly buy something, and you have that witness me moment, and you play a card, because the cards are always free actions. And like, oh, I have enough to do this, and blah, blah, blah. So every player, I played it at 3-player, all three of us definitely had at least one of those kind of turns where it's like, I'm going to do 4 things. Watch me, watch how I go. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of enjoyment there.
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics. It's Bees in Space, a game published by Stonemaier Games, known for, not cheaping out. So the aesthetics are all solid. If you're into Bees in Space, obviously the artwork is all original and kind of fanciful, right? You've got these futuristic-looking giant bees in spaceships or in spacesuits. They're building out neat space hives. Definitely pleasant to look at there. The components are relatively simple. It's cardboard and tiles and big stacks of cardboard tiles. Actually, it's all hexes, of course, right? The original masters of constructing a network of hexes, the bee, right? The honeycomb, that actual thing that all this is based on. You're building that. Hexes is what you're building your hive out of. And so it looks really great. You're building out this cool thing. And the workers are a really neat looking. What's the game? Tiny Epic Western does this, but imagine a 4-sided die, but it's a rectangle that looks like a bee, right? So it's like aesthetically look. I don't know if you bring it up there.
No, we have it up on the screen. But for the folks who listen to the show, great job describing it. It's more of a cylinder, right? 4-sided.
Right. Yeah, but it can clearly rest on each side, right? So I said rectangle because, like, when you place it down with the 3, so the 4 sides are representing of your worker strength 1 through 4. After your worker strength is 4, the next time he gets bumped, he hibernates, and so that's again the timer of a worker. They start at 1, and then every time they bump, they get bumped up to 2, then 3, then 4. So when you place a worker down on the 3 side facing up, it stays there. So it's effectively a rectangle because it'll stay in place, not going to roll around. But yes, aesthetically, they smoothed out the edges enough so that it looks like a little like space bee, like a bee in a spacesuit that you're placing down. So that's cool. There's one other mini, the Queen ship. It's fine. So yeah, the aesthetics are good. It's fine. This is not a crazy expensive, huge game. It takes up some table space, but we played on our normal breakfast room table, gaming table, so not like a big, 8x4 foot big game table, just a regular breakfast table. And the 3 of us were able to fit easily. So
that's beautiful.
Nice on the aesthetic. Yeah.
And then N for negative. So any negative experiences?
So and I've kind of beat around the bush on a couple of them, talking about the positives and the aesthetics. One negative I'll have is it's kind of a negative. Your player board is small-ish for what you can do in the game, because it's neat. You're in space. You can build any way you want, right? There's no gravity messing with you or telling you have to keep a well-formed honeycomb. So you can build like in a straight line for a while if you want and go off your player board, and the rules make it clear you can do that. But you kind of shouldn't, because just from a physical like player area space, the player board they give you, you're going to build off of your thing. So it's a little clunky where the rules let you effectively make a mess, but you kind of shouldn't, because then your player area is messy. So I don't know. It's as opposed to giving you a player board where it's just like, no, like you made the player boards big enough and you're supposed to now stay in them. Think like, I don't know, Calico, right? Calico, you have a quilt that you're quilting, and you're not supposed to leave your quilt. You can't just put a tile off to the side and leave your quilt. And in doing so, they give you a player board that is what it is. Here in Apiary, they give you a player board and then tell you can build off the player board onto the table, and it's fine. So that's a nitpicky, but it did happen, and it's kind of like, all right, we got to move stuff around now. That leads into just a general bit of fiddling. Those workers, which are cool, and they do stay upright. That's not contradicting what I said earlier. If I put it down as a 3, it stays there as a 3. But what did happen a couple times in the game is like Landis would bump me and just kind of toss me the worker and be like, "Here's your worker back," right? Without even thinking about it or trying to be malicious. And it was like, "Oh crap, what was that worker?" And he was
Whatever
like,
side you want it to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a very important part of the game. It's the timer of the game. It's the thing that determines your strength, but it is up to the player who's taking the turn when they bump you off to bump you off carefully, or be like, "Here, take your number 2 worker now." And like every turn you have to do that correctly. You can't just like toss someone their B. So there's a little bit of upkeep there, right? There's upkeep in the game, which is fine, but it's weird that someone else has to do it, right? They have to hand you your worker and say, "Here is your number 2 worker. It's number 2, right? Go ahead and handle that." So that's fine. The last little bit of negative, and I put this in there, and it's fine, is the theme is bees in space, but the in space part is a complete bolt-on. If you're looking for a space game, this is not it. Like there's nothing to do with space in this game other than the artwork. Nothing about any of the gameplay, which is interesting. It's a game about bees, and they made it so much a game about bees that they forgot to make it. It's almost like they forgot to make it about bees in space. So, like for instance, you have this sophisticated bee species that has evolved and has space travel, but the 3 core resources they're collecting are still pollen, water, and fiber, right? And it's like, all right, well, that's cool, I guess. Like they're still bees at their heart, but that makes it less futuristic, right? Less spacey, right? And I'm getting those 3 things so I can make wax and honey, just like a regular honeybee, so I can build my hive and like make new bees. So like, okay, is this a bees in space game?
But it's in space.
But
right.
But it's in space, right? Yeah, I mean, none of the 6 actions. And I looked to see like how hard would I have to work to strip away the space theme and just make it bees in the woods, right? Bees on planet Earth. And there's like no effort required. Like all 6 of the actions make complete sense because they are all really based on real bee behaviors. The dance action, well, that's what bees do. It's great. It has nothing to do with space at all. There's like a card draw action where they're collecting seeds. The cards are seeds. Okay, they go out and find real seeds on planet Earth. The exploration action, you're moving a queen ship around to explore new planets. If it was here on Earth, you'd be moving the queen bee around to explore that patch of grass over there, right? Like the work it would take to strip the space theme away from this game there is no work. It is just a bee game, and then they hired an artist that likes drawing in space. So
that sort of makes sense because when you listen to the design diaries, this was a game that was at the design day, and it was bees in the natural environment, and sort of. Jamie said, I like that, but that's been done, or there's a bunch of other nature themed games, and the space thing was an after the fact. So it feels like the game was maybe 80-90% developed and designed, and then they threw the space theme on top.
So
gotcha.
that Xeno would buy it because you throw space on it. Xeno will buy it. Yeah.
Right.
So it really, and so my phrase of bolted on really sounds like it really was. Yeah. And it really does feel that way. Like it's just a B game that they hired an artist to draw spaceships for. Yeah, pretty much. Which is fine. It's not necessarily a negative unless you were buying it because you thought it was a space game like last week we did talk, Carlos, about how I was attracted to the idea of a space game, but instead of aliens who I didn't connect with, the quote unquote alien race here was the honeybee, which I did connect with. And so there was a little bit of a bait and switch there where it was like, no, it's not a space game where with bees as aliens. It's a bee game and the bees are kind of in space. And that's the thing. Okay. But anyway, it didn't affect the gameplay, of course, at all. That's just the comment on the theme itself.
Now, here's where it gets hard, because you get to the S for summary. Now, you have purchased the game, so you are someone who's invested. But here you're talking to the audience. You're talking to the folks at home. Times are tough. Do I spend my money on this? Buy, try, or deny is how we rank it. What's your summary?
So, and I think it's fair. I've heard you guys do this before. There's an if, right? It's either a buy or a try.
No, I don't do that, but Rob and Wayne, they love doing that.
Sure. Because not every game is for everyone, so I don't want to just say go and buy this, even if you don't like worker placement games, right? There's got to be an if. So if you like worker placement games and you don't have one that bucks how worker placement games work, then this is a buy, because I love this worker placement system. It's probably I put this in the Discord, it's probably my favorite flavor of worker placement at all, period. The idea of I can always take the action that I wanted to take. It just might benefit you a little bit if you got there first, but I can still do it. Every turn is fun, and it's worker placement that lets worker placement, the fun, shine through, and none of that frustration of oh man, my spot's gone, right? So if you're into worker placements and you don't have a game that already does that, then this is a buy. If you are not big into worker placements, then it's a try, because it does something novel. It does something neat. There are other games that do things like this. In fact, I want to say there's even another Stonemaier game. Didn't we just play this at my house, Rob? With
Euphoria?
Sam? Euphoria.
With the dice.
Yes, Euphoria.
Yep.
Had the dice bumping, right?
Right.
The dice bumping.
Yep.
And now that one, though, if you bump people's dice, you might be screwing them over because they have to roll them, and if they roll poorly,
I become enlightened.
Something bad happens, right? Yeah, something bad happens. Here, I like this better. I'm bumping you, and you benefit from it. Like you got to the good spot, and so now you get to get a more powerful worker for the next time as I bump you out of the way. So yeah, I think this is my favorite system of worker placement that I have played, and so for that reason, if you like worker placement games, then it's a buy. Otherwise, it's a solid try. Very, very, very nice game.
Okay.
Sweet.
Stegmaier's
There you
big
go.
on those positive interactions, so it feels like that really comes through in this game. He talks about no bad turns, no negative feelings. Sounds like that's a strength of this game.
For sure. Boom shakalaka.
Well, thank you very
There
much
you go.
for the Giveth the Beans.
Yeah, my pleasure.